Hello and welcome to Chatterbox. What is Chatterbox? Well, this is a show that takes you behind the scenes and introduces you in the Huntsville, Texas area and on the campus of Sam Houston State University to people that are interesting, that have interesting stories to tell and situations with which you may not be familiar. Hello, I'm your host, Peter Roussel. I teach at Sam Houston State University in the Department of Mass Communication, where my title is Philip G. Warner Endowed Chair. And that means I teach in the department various courses in public relations and press presidency relations. Now, before we get into the show and our first guest here on Chatterbox, and we always have two guests on Chatterbox, two people we think you will find very interesting. Before we do that, though, I would just like to say this. This show is produced and promoted by Sam Houston State University students. It is student produced and promoted. And what that says to me, and I hope hopefully you, the audience, is that this is a hands-on student production. And to me, I don't know of a better way for a college student to learn than actually be doing it. And in this case, you can't see the students, but trust me, right now they're standing behind the camera doing their jobs, both technical and from a promotion standpoint, what we call public relations. So I say bravo to all the students involved in this. Now, let's get on with the show. Let's get on with Chatterbox. And let me introduce our first guest today. And she's also a friend, and she's also a friend in proximity because our offices are right next to each other.
We're neighbors.
We're neighbors. And her name is Elisa Herrmann. She's a professor here at Sam Houston State University, teaching film courses. And I don't know if I have your exact title down, Elisa, or not. What is your exact title?
My exact title is Assistant Professor of Mass Communication, and I'm also the coordinator of the BA in Film. So I do both things. And specifically, I teach production courses in film.
That sums it up, production courses in film.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had you for a professor when I was in college, but I didn't get to take any film courses when I was in college. Some television courses, but not film per se.
But you did make some films because you told me about that.
I had the opportunity through a student organization to make some films, yes. Yeah. Well, let's find out about you a little bit. I'm always curious, and I hope others are too, when we have a guest on here, how the path that led them to Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas.
Yeah.
And I know a little bit of your background, but tell us, how did you come to be here?
Yeah, I came from very far, I guess, maybe the farthest one in our department. I'm actually from Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. And I spent most of my life in Brazil until in 2008, I decided to...
And where in Brazil is this?
I'm from the south of Brazil. I'm from this city named Curitiba.
How big was it?
It's a big city. It's one of the capital cities of Brazil. It's not as big as Houston, but it's big. It's about 6 hours south of São Paulo. So if people have never heard...
São Paulo.
Yeah, São Paulo is more famous than Curitiba for sure.
Yeah.
But
I've also been to Brasilia.
Yeah, I know. You told me that with President
Reagan.
Reagan, yeah. Funny enough, I have never been to Brasilia, so...
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of a government town.
Yeah, it's like DC. Yeah. It's the same idea. But I would like to go because the architecture is supposed to be very nice, and I've only seen through pictures, so one day I'll make it there, but I haven't. And yeah, so I came from Curitiba, and then in 2008, I've heard of a Fulbright grant that was for academically excellent students that had only gone through public schools, and that was my case. So I've always been in public schools in Brazil, and I had always had the wish to live abroad and to study film. And I thought, well, that's my chance. So I applied for the grant and I got it. And that grant was to give support for students to apply for graduate programs in the United States. So the grant pretty much paid for application to masters and paid for a language test that you have to do when you're an international student. So it's called TOEFL test, the GRE, and everything in relation to that. Everything you got to
go through.
Everything you got to go through. And then I applied to different schools. I was initially going to apply to 3 schools. So I applied to Syracuse University, I applied to Southern Illinois University, and I was going to apply for the New York Film Academy. But what happened was that before I applied for the New York Academy, I got accepted into both Syracuse and SIU. The thing is that Syracuse offered me half a scholarship, and I would have to be able to afford the rest and live in New York, which is very expensive.
It's costly.
Yeah. And Southern Illinois University, which is in Carbondale, Illinois, a small town, offered me full tuition waiver and graduate assistantship and a stipend, and I didn't have to think twice. So I accepted Southern Illinois University, and then I never ended up applying to the New York Academy because they didn't have scholarships. So I was like, well, if I can't go, then why would I worry about that? So
then how did you connect to Sam Houston?
So I finished my master's degree at SIU, and I started teaching there. And after a couple of years teaching there, I started applying to jobs anywhere in a tenure track. Mm-hmm. And I went on a few campus visits, and one of them was at Sam Houston State University. And
had you ever been to Texas?
I had never been to Texas before. That was my first time. Oh no, I lie. I actually had been to Dallas with a friend once, but not this area. Yeah. As soon as I came and I had my interview here, I felt really good about coming and doing my interview because I was very welcomed here. Like, everybody was super nice, and I felt really at home. So it was very interesting.
This place is great in that way.
Yeah. Everybody's really friendly, and it's very welcoming. And as soon as I arrived in the airport in St. Louis, the chair of our department, John Bodon, called me offering the position. So I was very happy about that. So that's kind of how I ended up here. Yeah.
Well, and we're so glad you are here.
Yeah,
just briefly, tell us how many courses you teach.
So I teach TV and film production, which is an intro course. So I teach things from how to turn on a camera to...
like these cameras here.
Like these cameras here, yeah, and how to use a studio and all of that. I teach advanced editing, which is advanced editing. And I teach another one called moving image aesthetics, which I kind of give challenges to the students so that they can try and think outside the box and do more creative work. So those are the ones I'm teaching this semester, but they change, they vary. Other semesters I teach other courses as well, but all of them in production.
Well, like I say, I wish I could have taken one when I was a student. We're going to talk here a little bit about a project you're very involved with, a film festival, but before we get to that, let me ask you, are you a filmmaker yourself?
I am also a filmmaker.
So you make documentary films yourself?
Yes, I make actually all sorts of films. I make fiction films, I make experimental films, I make documentary films.
How come I've never seen any of your films?
They are all in my website, so you're welcome to go
I need
look
to
at
visit
them.
that.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Yeah. And
you've seen some of my films, but I haven't seen yours. It ought to be the other way around.
Well, they're available online for anyone who wants to watch them. You're welcome to look them up. It's elisaherrmann.com, so it's easy to find.
elisaherrmann.com, there you are.
And but lately I've been working more on documentaries, so maybe that's why you know more.
Well, I hear you talking about documentaries.
Yeah. So lately I've been working more on documentaries, and yeah, I mean I've been producing kind of like a film a year for the past few years. So it's been very productive.
That's a pretty ambitious schedule.
Yeah, but my newest one is actually a feature documentary, so it's going to be long, and I've been working on it for the past 2 years, and it's almost ready. So hopefully it will be out.
Filmmaking takes time.
Takes time. Yeah.
I think people sometimes don't appreciate how much time it takes.
It does take time.
We're going to be running out of time for this segment here pretty shortly, but before we do, I want you to tell us about this upcoming film festival.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year we partner with the Common Reader department here at SAM, and we create a thematic film
Just so
festival.
people understand, the Common Reader is a book
Right. So
that
every
they
year,
select each year. Go
every
ahead.
year they choose one book, and several departments at the university, they do different activities in relation to that book to stimulate the students to read that book. And
Last time it was Dan Rather's
last
book.
time it was Dan Rather's book, What Unites Us, and the theme of the festival was What Unites Us. So we had several films made by SHSU students that were related to the theme. And last year we were very lucky because Dan Rather himself actually came to the festival and watched some of the films. So
It was great. I was there.
yeah, it was
and
really
he was
great.
great to do it.
Yeah, he was very gracious to come and do that. So that was very nice. This year, the book in question is called Educated, a Memoir by Tara Westover. And she was here on campus actually a couple of weeks ago.
And this book's a big bestseller.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's really excellent, and everybody really should read it.
I need to read it.
Yeah, but the festival theme this year is memoir. So students are creating films that relate to the festival. And we are still accepting films until October 29th through a website. This is open to any SHSU students. It doesn't have to be only Mass Comm students. Anyone in the university that is a student right now can submit a film to the festival. The festival itself is on November 6th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at the Olson Auditorium in AB4.
Which is right here on the campus.
Right here on campus. And
Okay, well, let me ask
Yes,
you,
I just-
let me get you to repeat something here.
Sure.
Because, and that is, okay, if a student wants to submit a film to the festival,
Right.
how do they do it?
They submit through our website, and they have until October 29th to do
Okay.
it.
If they just have any questions, though, can they contact you?
Absolutely. They can send an email to filmfestival@shsu.edu.
Say it again.
filmfestival@shsu.edu.
Okay. And the date and time of the event itself, the film festival itself, when the awards will be given out is?
November 6th, 7 p.m. at the Olson Auditorium in the building AB4 here at the university.
Okay. Is there anything else about it that you'd like to say?
Yeah, we have awards, so that's fun. We have a Best Film Award, an Honorable Mention Award, and the Special Award. And the Special Award is actually extra special because it also involves getting a $500 gift card from Amazon.
Whoa.
Yep.
I can use that.
For the Special Award, the category is the film that most closely relates to the themes of the book. So we really want the students to read the book. That's why we have the Special Award.
Great stuff. Listen, I wish we had more time. There's many other things we could visit about. Maybe we'll come back in the future and we can do that. But for right now, I've got to say so long to Elisa Herrmann and thank her for being on
Thank you.
Chatterbox. And then we'll be back after that break for a second guest here on Chatterbox. Stay tuned.
These are the moments that bring us to our feet. The anticipation, the tradition, the foul ball, the 15 seconds of fame, the big catch, the game-winning home run. But the most important moment happens when we all stand together.
Join us as we stand up to show our support for loved ones affected by cancer.
Visit standuptocancer.org/MLB.
Stand up with us.
Stand up with us.
Stand up with us.
Stand up with us.
Hello and welcome back to Chatterbox. That's a kind of different name for a show, isn't it? Well, what do? We chatter about things related to Sam Houston State University and the city of Huntsville and this area. And we have our second guest for today on Chatterbox. First of all, my name is Peter Roussel. I'm your host. and I teach here in the Department of Mass Communication here at Sam Houston. And this studio where we're making this program is in the Dan Rather Communications Building right on the campus. And you can't see them, but they're students producing and promoting this show as we speak. And I think it's a terrific thing that our department here does, gives these students hands-on experience. What could be better? Let's meet our second guest on Chatterbox today. Her name is Bri, that's short for Brianna, right?
Yes, sir.
Bri Smith. And she's a creative type like some others of us are. Your exact title, Bri, is?
I am the marketing coordinator for the College of Arts and Media.
As we speak, she is the marketing coordinator for the College of Arts and Media, which is a new name for that college.
Yes, sir. It was formerly known as the College of Fine Arts and Mass Communication. We just went through our name change as of September 1st this year.
And you had a big part in that.
Oh, yes, sir. Our whole team had a
We'll
fun
get to
time with
that in
that.
1 second, but first, like I always like to do, let's find out about you and how you came to be here.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised here in Huntsville, Texas, so
wow.
I have not traveled far.
You know, even though we're here in Huntsville, a lot of the students are from other places.
Oh, yes. No, I kept it close to home where my family is. I attended Huntsville High School, and then I attended Sam Houston State University.
You had no choice, did you?
No, it was a great choice, actually. My home was, right down the road, so
Wow.
that was perfect.
Yeah.
So I already knew the town and the community, and my grandfather.
I'm just curious, had you spent, when you were younger, time just around the campus?
I did, actually. My grandfather taught here at Sam. He was an ag professor, so we spent a lot of time up here getting to see him teach his classes and tour the campus and actually see the growth of the campus, too. It's come a long way since, he first
It's
started.
come a long way since I first came here, and that hadn't been that long.
Yes, sir.
So you came here as a student.
I did. I initially started out with a degree program of forensic chemistry, and not in what my actual degree plan
Forensic
is.
chemistry. Good
Yes.
God.
It's definitely a switch from what I ended up with.
I wouldn't think there are many majors harder than that.
No, it's a very difficult job. When you look in the course book, there is a lot of math that is required for that, of course. So, but I sat down one day and really thought about my career and kind of what I wanted to do. It's interesting, I actually sat down and I went through the entire SAM catalog to make sure that I was making the right choice and what my degree plan was going to be. And
That was probably a wise thing to do.
I stumbled upon graphic design. I didn't even know there was a term for what I did. I did all these things as a hobby, illustration and things of that sort. And I found that there was actually a degree for what I like to do in my spare time. So I decided to make the switch.
And that would have been in the art department here, right?
Yes, sir. It's within the art department.
So that was your major.
Yes, sir. I graduated as of spring of 2015 with a BFA in graphic design and advertising.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well, after that, I found my way into Conroe, Texas, still not very far away, but I found myself as a graphic designer for a small mom and pop shop in Conroe with the name of Graphic Stop. Shortly after being there, and when I say short, it's very short, it was within a 2-week period, I became the manager of the business.
Instant success.
Yes, sir. It was a great opportunity. It was a little scary at first to, be in charge of a business, but it taught me a lot. I learned a lot of good things. I kind of hit the ground running.
You learned how to adapt real quickly.
It was sink or swim.
Yeah.
So I swam as
for
hard
you.
as I could. But I was in that position for about 3 years. And then I saw the opening for a position for the marketing coordinator for the College of Fine Arts and Mass Comm at the time.
Yep.
And I met with their group. It was a very nice group of people. As Elisa Herrmann mentioned, it's a very welcoming environment here at SAM. So it was an easy choice to make that switch into that position. And I've been here since March of 2018.
I will just tell you, as you know, half of my career was in public relations, and the other half was in Washington, D.C., and in other forms of public relations. But my point to you is, if you've got graphic design ability right now, that is a big strength out there in the public relations and advertising job market.
Yes, sir.
And there's a definite need out there for people with that skill.
Oh, yes.
So any student that might have a bent toward that, I would encourage them.
I would say definitely investing in that. I think graphic design is a key element. I think photography is a key element. And writing, of course, is definitely a strong point that you need to have within this industry. I think they all work together.
The last public relations firm I was associated with was called Newman Roussel, and I was a managing partner of it. The first question when we had someone come in to apply for a new position, the first question we would ask them is, do you like to write?
Yes.
Because that was the core of our business.
Yep.
And if you didn't like to write, I'd usually say, you might want to consider another field.
That's good advice.
Because if you go to any public relations firm in Houston or I guess anywhere else, you're going to be writing.
A lot of it has to be
in a
fluid.
variety of ways. So we always opened the interview with, do you like to write? And all we were looking for was the answer, yes. And then we'd proceed with the interview. Okay, well that's one of the, let's mention here and show, I want to show people a project that you have been involved with here for what, a year now?
Yes, sir.
Going on a year?
About a year.
Okay, well it's this magazine I'm about to pick up here. And it's beautiful cover here. It has very big letters here that say CAM. CAM stands for?
Creative, active, meaningful. So that is a term that Dean Shields came up with to help express what our college mission is, and it also stands for the College of Arts and Media.
College of Arts and Media, the new title of this college, under which there are 5 departments.
Yes.
And tell us what those 5 departments are.
So we have the Department of Art, the Department of Dance, the Department of Mass Communication, the School of Music, and the Department of Theater and Musical Theater.
That's a lot to for
It is
somebody
a lot.
like you in the job
Yes, sir.
to keep track of, because
Yes,
you've got 5 very active departments, I might add.
Yes, sir. Well, I have a very great team that I work with that helps make it a success. So,
Well, tell us a little bit about the magazine. Why was this done? What was the idea behind this?
well, the magazine was actually an idea that Dean Shields had come up with a couple of years ago. It's something that he's wanted to put in motion for a while. So he presented me with the idea of wanting to create this. So at that instance, we decided, me, myself, and my team decided to create the outline for the magazine, thinking of what would go into it, what type of stories we should tell people, because it's our first publication. So we wanted to think about what would be good to show the public. So this is a compilation of faculty, staff, student, and alumni success. We have stories for each of those individuals, and then we also have talks about the new college name change, how we've been a college for a decade now, and what transformation we've gone through in those 10 years, and also the new addition of the art complex that has recently been built and completed as of September. So it has a lot of different things that talk about what's been going on in our college for at least the past year.
I've been an editor of magazine. Even the simplest magazine, even if it's a newsletter, it takes a lot of work.
Oh, it does.
That represents a lot of work.
Yes, sir.
Just the copy alone in there,
Yes, sir.
there's a lot of text in there.
Well, we had a great writer, Julia May, who's
Who's
also
a former public information officer for Sam Houston.
Yes, sir. We approached her to ask if she would be willing to write copy for our magazine, and she did a wonderful job. I don't think it would be as successful as it is without her great writing style.
She did a terrific job, and the layout, I think, is very creative in there.
Thank you.
I assume you had a big hand in that.
Yes, sir. Myself and my team.
Let's pat you on the shoulder here on that one and give you credit where
thank
credit's
you.
due. That is a lot of work.
Yes, sir. I have a team of a graphic designer, a photographer, and we have a videographer. So I think everybody had a great hand in this, and I think that's why it became so successful.
But somebody had to coordinate all that.
Yes, sir.
Somebody's got to be the quarterback on these deals.
Yes, sir.
So I'm very appreciative of the amount of work that went in. It took a year, right?
Yes, sir. It took about a year to gather all the information, to think about the layouts, to think about what type of photography and content needed to go into it, and many sleepless nights of trying to perfect the layout.
You know, and it's been my experience over the years, a lot of times people think, oh, they probably put that out in a week. Probably took them a week
Exactly.
to do that.
Oh, it couldn't be further from the truth, though.
It's like going to a play here.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah, they probably spent a couple of days putting that together.
Oh, countless hours.
Yeah. To make something appear seamless takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline and self-disciplined work.
Yes, sir. A
to
lot
make
of
it
time
happen.
and a great team.
Yeah, well, that's life. It's usually when you see great products like this, there's been a great team. It's a team effort.
Yes,
and
sir.
certainly in our field that we're in, public relations, advertising, well, broadcast, what are all those? They're all team efforts. Nobody's an island.
Yes, sir.
And I advise my students, and I think other professors here do, hey, when you get out there, out into the workforce, you got to be prepared to work as part of a team somewhere,
I
usually.
think that's great advice.
And, you know,
You need a team to complete these big projects, so.
well, okay, so what other, you've told us about the 5 departments. Okay, you've got dance, and y'all did this big event here about a week ago called Prelude, which
Yes,
was
sir.
announcing all this, the
Yes,
change
sir.
in the college, and you had, I thought it was a terrific event.
I'm glad you could make it.
Well, I'm glad I could too.
Well, you were one of, the biggest parts of Prelude.
We don't need to mention that, but I thought it was a terrific evening though for the public and any visitors. Let me ask you about one more thing about the magazine. How does somebody get a copy of this magazine? Say a citizen in Huntsville. How do they get this?
Well, we have copies within the Gattner Performing Arts Center available for pickup, and then we also.
They're on display over there?
Yes, sir.
So
We
a
have them
person
on
could come to
display.
the campus, go to the Gattner Performing Arts Center.
Yes, sir.
And find this magazine. And there's no charge, right?
No, sir. There's no charge. Our hope, I think, is to spread it campus-wide so it's easier accessible to everybody on campus to get a copy. And then we also have a digital version online.
And how do they
that.
see that?
They can go to our website, so shsu.edu/cam, and we'll have a link to where people can download and view the digital version.
Okay, repeat that one more time.
Okay, it's www.shsu.edu/cam. And
You know, this says something about the times in which we live. If we were doing this show about, I don't know, say 15 years ago, I'd have been asking you for the phone number.
yes, sir.
And now what are we doing? Okay, give me the website.
And I'm used to, spelling out all the web addresses just, from edits and typing. So I go through the whole, I'm surprised I didn't put the HTTP in that.
Think what it'll be 15 years from now.
Oh, I can't
Somebody will
even
be sitting here saying, it'll be just some little short thing. Well, Bri Smith, it's been a great pleasure visiting with you.
Thank you for having me.
Again, may I congratulate you on the accomplishment of this magazine,
Thank
which
you
is
so much.
no small accomplishment. I'm very appreciative of the amount of work that went into that. And let me wish you all the best in your career
Thank
and all things in your life here. And maybe you'll come back and be a guest on Chatterbox again sometime
Yes,
soon.
sir. I would love to.
Well, thanks for being here today. Well, that's it for today on Chatterbox, folks. I'm your host, Peter Roussel, saying we hope you'll see you again soon on the next Chatterbox.